disengage your self-worth from your achievements.
Wow.
So every time...
Okay, talk us more through that, yeah.
Yes, disengage your self-worth from your achievements. Because before you achieve something, you're gonna fail a lot. It's gonna get wrong, you're gonna get a lot of rejection. There will be a lot of people that are gonna tell you no, more people that are telling no than people that are gonna say to you yes. And this is nothing to do with how good you are. You are good enough. We are all good enough. And we play that role that whatever is not working for us is because we are not good enough in doing something. When you disengage these two things and you take the emotions out of something that you want an outcome and you just action. No today, okay, I'm gonna try again tomorrow. No again, I'm gonna try again tomorrow. I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna try again tomorrow, and I'm gonna done. And you keep doing this, you will receive the yes that you're looking for.
Welcome back to another episode of Ride to Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to a more productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopes, and you can find me on LinkedIn under my own name. And in this podcast, I explore cycling's global trends, community needs, innovative business strategies, and the journeys of remarkable individuals in the world of cycling. Today's guest is someone who truly breathes that mission. I'm joined by Renata Farah, Brazilian-born, passionate cyclist, a community builder, and the founder of Reconnect. Her story takes us from the streets of Rio to the Dolomites, blending sport, business, and a deep personal transformation along the way. In this conversation, we explore how cycling has become transformational for her life journey, even therapeutical, and how she uses movement to build meaningful connections, and how she's creating now a space that builds and fosters a safe space for people to connect in a meaningful way. So get ready to feel inspired, reflect about your bike rides, and maybe even look at your own life a bit differently. Bem-vinda, Renata, to Ride to Success. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to join you.
Brilliant. So I am interested in having this conversation with you because you have just kind of stormed, if you will, into kind of my to LinkedIn really. Until very recently, I didn't know what the work you did, kind of what you were trying to build, and all of a sudden, there's a big influx of information about your roots, your origins, your purpose, what you're trying to build, and it's a wave of motivation, a positive energy, and kind of I'm interested to find out a bit more about you because I think that's like beautiful nuggets of information and kind of positivity that you embody, and I wanted to capture that. And before we get kind of into like the kind of the story and like what you're trying to build, you have led a life what I think is interesting so far, which spans several continents. You have lived, you were born in Brazil, you're Brazilian, but you lived in Argentina and Australia, and now you live in Italy. And moving across continents, and countries, in what makes you thrive in like changing cultures that, yes, we are living in a very international world, in globalized world, but every country has their own cultures.
Yes.
And then what makes you really adapt and want to move around? Is it like the thrill of finding a new challenge, kind of reinventing yourself, having a new start from fresh? Just give us a bit of context in between like this journey that you've been on.
Yeah, awesome. No, and great question. I think, Pedro, initially I would start with a quote: "Ignorance is bliss." When you do it for the first time and you just don't know what are the consequences, what are the things that can happen after, you just do it. right? So I think that my first move, I used to live in Brazil and I moved to Argentina, I just really wanted to leave where I live. So I'm originally from Rio. And I had a father that he was very, he wanted me to follow his how can I say, his pathway of profession. So my father was an engineer and he had his own business and he wanted me to work with him ultimately, right? So keep going with the business after he was no longer here. And, but I didn't resonate with that. And I thought that the only way for me to be able to be free was to actually physically get out of that environment, right? So my first move to Argentina was, I was at the time in Brazil working for a magazine. I had just finished university and I wanted to start my own business, maybe also to make my father proud that he wasn't, in so bad in terms of the things he was teaching me. And I went to Argentina to start my magazine in Spanish.
What magazine was that?
So it was, so I had a friend at the time, he had a website that was around all different outdoor sports. So triathlon outdoor, off-road, so like Xterra, mountain biking, running, was like multi-sport. The magazine that I used to work in Brazil was Triathlon magazine. So it was just covering triathlon races. And so I went there to do a magazine from his website, which is the world reverse. Right? Because you would do the opposite. You go there to do a website from a magazine. But it worked, actually. It worked pretty well. Like it was... we have just one competitor, so it was pretty good. Like it was just two magazines in the market at the time. So that's what led me to go to Argentina. And I think that one thing we underestimate about ourselves is how much when you are in an environment that you don't have another option other than putting yourself out there, you start to unleash layers. It's like if we are onions, right? And you start to peel down. Yeah. So I remember when I arrived in Argentina, Pedro, I didn't even know how to cook, right? Like I was young. There was a cook working in my house. So I never cooked. And I thought, how I'm going to survive? And you learn, like you start to learn like basic stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
To live. I still remember the first time that I received, how can I say that in English? A bill, like a water bill or something like this. Yeah. And on the same day that I got the bill, I ran into the post office to pay. And then my business partner, he said, Renata, do you know that there is an expiry date and you can wait? Because I was so like afraid, right, of what to do.
So that sounded like a crash course into adulthood.
Yes, 100%.
Like, right, 100%. Here we go. You need to learn a new set of skills.
Yes.
How young were you when you moved from Brazil to Argentina?
I was 24 years old. 24.
I'm Portuguese, originally from Portugal, and historically, Brazilians and Argentinians have a bit of a rivalry. Inside. How was it? Was like noted in your day to day? Was it commented?
Actually,
that can be comical, a comical anecdote, but it's known that Argentinians and Brazilians have some kind of clash.
Yes,
mainly over football, perhaps.
100% brought from football. There is a huge rivalry. I don't even know to say rivalry between Argentina and Brazil. But no, I had amazing Argentinian friends. I actually got married with an Argentinian at the time.
Right.
So no, it was great. It was good. And the thing is, I think that when you make also the effort to get into the community, to speak the language, to do that, people notice that and they appreciate it, right? So they feedback you in a positive way. Let's put it this way. Yeah. So it was good. Yeah, it was fun.
So it does. I mean, I mean, you mentioned that you were working before moving to Brazil in a triathlon magazine. You know, I'm interested to find out, why did you get into working in a triathlon magazine? Like, were you into sports from a young age?
Yep.
How did you get into triathlon? Was it purely like a job opportunity, or was it like a passion that you wanted to make it a bit of money on top of it?
No, great question. So since I'm very young, I have always been involved in all different kind of sports, right? And and the sport that I was doing at the time was windsurfing. So I was going on the weekends at the beach, and then we were windsurfing. The problem is you get addicted in weather forecast, and then you go to the places where there is more wind, but sometimes that all goes wrong and there was no wind. So as a group, we started to run, swim, and bike as an alternative of not being able to sail, right? To windsurf.
Yeah.
So one day I was watching TV, and then randomly, Pedro, totally random, like put on the TV at home. And there was this amazing athlete. Her name is, because she's still around us, Fernanda Keller. She was the first Brazilian. She actually was the first person to bring triathlon to Brazil in the 80s.
Wow. Okay.
And yes, and she was like like a breakthrough, because she used to race in swimsuit, and she was female doing an endurance sport. So there was a lot of, taboos of our society, right? And in Brazil, it wasn't very different. So she was calling a lot of attention because she was really good. So at the time, she was top 10 in Hawaii, in the Ironman Hawaii, which is the biggest Ironman race in the world. And she had placed 6 times third place in Hawaii, like a bronze medal. So she was huge. And there was a documentary going on TV around her preparation to the Ironman. And what got me fascinated was that was a woman, normal, there was nothing, like when you see, for example, a basketball player, she needs to be tall. When you see like a gymnastic, it's usually short, very flexible. You start on a very young age, right? So certain sports, you need a specific characteristics to do it.
Yeah, something like you need to hit the genetic
exactly. You
gold.
Need to have if you are, I don't know, in horse racing, you have to, your family often goes from that background. So there is something like that. And what I liked about it is that I saw me on her, like she was just normal woman. Like if you didn't know that she was racing Ironman, you would just say that she was a very fit woman. Like she goes to the gym and does stuff, but you would never say that she would be there hours running, swimming, and riding. So I remember I saw that, and that impressed me a lot. And the backstage in the documentary was about the backstage. So you were seeing life as it is. And this is the first step, I think, Pedro, that started to fascinate me, that any successful story that you see the tip of the iceberg.
Of course, yeah.
Beneath it, there is a whole story that you don't see. And you assume that either doesn't exist, because we want to believe into the hero, right? That there is the guy that goes out of the blue and do a lot of things. But this is not true. So when I was seeing that, I said, okay, so she wakes up at 4:30 in the morning. So she's not she struggles in the traffic, and she struggles to get the entry to the pool. Like, it's not just me. Like, she is, with all these achievements, she does this as well. Anyway, cutting the story.
She's a human with her own problems of
100%.
life.
100%.
Yeah.
So cutting the story short, I went into her website, and she was very famous in Brazil. She still is very famous there. And I went to the contact page, and I sent an email, huge. As much as I speak is how much I write. Huge email to her saying, Fernanda, I wanted to meet you. I want to understand, where should I start? I didn't know where to start. And I still remember, Pedro, my sister, I was sending this to her. My sister said, Renata, you're crazy. She's never going to get back to you. She must receive like hundreds of messages, because especially at that time, she was doing very well. So she was on TV, on the newspaper. She's going to interviews. She was doing heaps of stuff. Anyway, I sent a message, cold message, on the contact page of the website, and that's it. 1 week later, I was in uni during class and my phone rang, the old Nokia mobile phone, that looked like a brick. I still remember I had a blue Nokia. Weird number, boom, went to voicemail. There was a message. I left the class. I got the phone and I listened to the message, and was, Renata, here's Fernanda Keller. I would love to meet you. Could you give me a call back?
Wow.
I was...
That's like a pinch me moment.
100%. And I was like, wow, like seriously, Pedro, she was truly famous. Like she was like on TV. There was like outdoors of her on the street.
What did you, okay, well, wait, what did you write to her? Because like, if she's like on mainstream media,
yeah,
now in Brazil, which is like hundreds of millions of people,
yeah,
like I'm sure there's loads of girls probably doing the same thing. Like, what did you write to her?
That's a great question. I wrote a story. I wrote a story of how did I get to watch her and feel so admired about her, right? So I wrote a story of where I was coming from, the different sports that I went through. Prior to windsurfing, I was horse riding. My father cut the funds from horse riding because I didn't go to a public school, university. I need to go to a private one. So he said, stop riding horses and figure out what to do next. Windsurfing was something that I loved. I liked to do, but it wasn't that super passionate thing. And then I saw her story, and I was just fascinated about how real it was, right? So what I did was I shared how my story connected with hers, right? And
interesting.
And how much I would love to meet her in person, at least to say hi, bye, like nothing more than that. So it's almost like I went with an ask to know her behind any titles. Like who she was. I was interested about the human being behind all that, because that's what caught my attention.
Yeah. So did you get to meet her?
Yes. So we met, and then she decided she was in the transition of, she was thinking about retiring in 2 or 3 years. So she said, I'm going to start now to do some coaching. So she said, do you want to be my first guinea pig? And I start to coach you. And I said, of course, of course I want. So we started, and then she was literally almost my personal trainer kind of thing. It was amazing. But it didn't work because she was training a lot, because she was still racing Ironmans, and it was just like a long vision. So she passed me to her coach. So I started to be coached by her coach. And then at the time I was I did journalism. So my background is in journalism. And I did, and I met her husband. Her husband is he's like a movie maker. He does movies and documentaries pretty much around her, but like as his mainstream, but he does other jobs, other things, but mainly on her. And then he decided to do a second documentary about her life. That would be more than just a preparation to a race, but actually from the beginning to where she was. So he asked me at the time, do you want to do I wouldn't know how to say that in English, but it's like, maybe this word exists, decupation of tapes. So it's like I needed to watch all the tapes and mark the most important moments of the tape. So when the editor is editing the documentary, he gets like a book with all the different times from tapes.
Timestamps.
Timestamps, and then he can find the images without needing to watch from zero. For me, Pedro, that was like pure entertainment, because I was just watching everything, because the guy, her husband, was recording everything of her life. So I was pretty much watching her life, right? And that normalized me so much, the life of a professional athlete. Like, you know, like when you see...
You really pulled back the curtain on like all the nitty gritty of like...
100%. 100%.
How, I mean, what did you learn from that experience? Because I'm sure, like, that's a very, very unique, like, insight into like
a life of an athlete.
Elite athlete life. You know, no one gets to see that. Like, how was that experience?
That experience taught me a few things. It's a very interesting question. You're making me think. Actually made me realize a few things, Pedro. The first one is when you are determined to achieve something and your goal is so clear, there is nothing in your way that's gonna put you back, although there is a lot of things that will pull you back, right? So this is the part where it's going to be difficult. How much do you want this, right?
Yeah.
And that experience showed me the early hours that she does, how she handled all the commitments on top of being an athlete, because in order to make a living as an athlete, it's not just being there training. You have also to fulfill the commitment with your sponsors, with the interviews, with the photo shooting that she was doing, because she's beautiful and she was being invited to do a lot of, different photo shootings and magazine covers and stuff. So how do you handle all this agenda and still go to a world championships and win it or be top three of how do you handle all that? And then you see that it's just no different from anybody else that has a very busy job, has a family, has a house to look after. It's just different in terms of the action, the activities, right? But the actions toward what you have to do is the same. The concept, the mindset is the same, right? So there is a fundamental foundation for it.
Surely, I mean, yes. I mean, yeah. There's a good correlation between kind of the mindset you need to have. You need to focus whether you want to, whether you're starting a business, whether are you committed to the sport that you do, and but with like me or maybe you, even there's no gold medals at the end of at the end of a training block, or at the end of like a racing round. So, but surely there must be something that kind of differentiates these people. It's like the same level of commitment you and me kind of need to put into our works, into our projects or businesses we run. But for an athlete, that is compounded, and correct me if I'm wrong, compounded by everyone else, expectations, pressure from the outside world, and kind of it becomes, I guess, maybe even a pressure cooker, having to deal with that amount
Pedro,
of
I would say to you that the difference is that we are not famous, right? So people don't see, we are not in the world.
The limelight,
Yes, in the limelight. So our result is not translated into a race that is a world championships and that a lot of people are watching and they will know, right? But you are a champion on its own. Like if you were to share with people all you do, how you juggle your podcast, your work, your family, your day-to-day life, you are a champion alone. The difference is that your outcome, your result is not translated into a medal that you go into a podium and everybody's watching it because they are fans of the sport, right? But when I am 100% sure, and this is, I'm very confident on, if you sit with other people that are doing what you're doing or that understands or that are in the same environment and you share your story, I'm very certain that you will inspire them with the outcomes that you made, right? Even, for example, the commitment of doing the podcast, researching the people and feeding these in and having these around everything that you do, you're a champion alone. But people don't acknowledge that because in our society, the translation of success is that medal on the top of the podium that everybody's applauding, right? But that's not necessarily true, right? It's we are all champions in all different ways. If I go in Brazil, for example, you go to the slums and you see how people live and strive and thrive in there, and they don't have a medal and a podium, but they do fantastic stuff there. Even in Portugal, Africa, whatever, you go in a sub-development country and you see the things that happens there that we don't know because it's not a, it's not something that people are going to watch on TV.
There is a lot of struggle. There's a lot of that commitment that goes into like people having to commit to, whether that's a business, leading a purposeful life, and 100%. Just that requires a huge amount of concentration, focus, and energy to achieve that, and have levels of levels of success doing
Yes.
it.
Yes, 100%. And
And yeah, go for it.
No. And I was just going to wrap it up to
I mean,
say that she once was a normal person. I mean, not famous person, right? Just like you and me. Like she just started somewhere and kept going, persisting. And so the grit is something very important.
There is a thing that there's a very powerful truth to that. It's like I read a quote a while back ago now, where kind of it's not like I can't, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it said, just being ordinary, just by being ordinary, you're being extraordinary. And it made me think about the fact that you, me, leading just our lives, trying to do the best we can with the resources we have, and trying to whether it's starting a business, starting a podcast, or something else, you are pushing yourself, pushing your boundaries, and kind of like just the fact that you are trying to do something that is bigger than you. It doesn't mean that you have to be extraordinary, you have to be on the spotlight all the time. You are making the change around the people, whether it is your family, whether it is the communities, the small communities that you interact with. I think that already makes a huge difference. And I think it's about recognizing that the power that you have by the way you lead your life, the way you speak to other people, affects and creates ripples. And so that kind of energy, if you have the right kind of energy, positive energy, then that affects positively the people around you, and then that creates ripples of kind of positiveness, if you will, around 100%. You, and then that creates a aura, kind of good energy around you. I think it's a bit. It feels like a bit talking about very in abstract, but when you put it in terms of, if you want to start a business, or just want to kind of ride your bike for the pleasure of it, that is already making a positive decision, a positive move towards kind of a more healthy life, a more purposeful life. So that what I mean is, like, that simple acts already create great energy around what you're doing, and that requires commitment. That's requirement, purpose. Not everyone, can say, I can go and ride my bike because I want it. I want to enjoy it and take pleasure out of it, or I want to go and connect people. I want to create a networking business because I think that's what my forte lies on. So it does. There is power in the everyday. That's what I meant.
100%. 100%. And it's also very important for you to, and I think going to the beginning of what we are talking is, we compare ourselves a lot with other people, right? And I know it's easier said than done, but the only person you have to compare yourself with is who you were yesterday, other than other people. And this is where, if you look into people that already accomplished a lot of things, even things that you are doing, but they're way ahead in the journey from you, and you start to say, I will never do that, or never going to be there. So don't even bother starting, right? Because you already feel yourself so far away, but you're already in a position to change lives, to impact people where you are right now, right? So there are stages, and so 100%. But I am with you with the positivity thing.
I mean, it's I think it's like it touches on the fact that it's something that kind of you already touched upon during my research, which is like, which you mentioned in the past. It's just comfort, and comfort are kind of is a short-term friend, but it might be a long-term enemy. And the fact that you have moved around, talking about your journey, traveling around the world, living in different continents. What is kind of a moment kind of in this journey that kind of you really felt, this is like why I want to be doing something that is purposeful. So you mentioned how choosing the easy option, choosing something that is an easy decision, not always plays not always plays it in the right way in the long term. So how have you taken this approach or this philosophy into where you are now today? How is this kind of brought you on this journey from Argentina to Australia to now Italy?
I think I realized, Pedro, that everything is gonna be all right. I think we have the sense that if we leave the safety, if you leave the shed that you are in, that outside in the forest is gonna be worse, because you don't have your roof, you don't have your usual friends, your community, your group. And this is not true. We are very adaptable species.
Yeah.
So anywhere we go, you adapt. It just takes time to adapt, right? So you will learn a new language, you will learn new skills, you will learn how to get around the different places that you move. The thing is that it's painful, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I lived in Argentina for 8 years, and then I moved to Australia. And I remember when I arrived there, oh my God, everything is different. Culture is different, language is different, food is different. You get sick in the first 3-4 months because everything is different, right? And then you are stressed and the whole thing. And then you don't have friends, your friends are far. And then the time zone, because in Australia, you're like 14 hours away, depending on where. So from Brazil, it's around 14 hours time zone.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference. So to talk with your friends is not any time. It's just like early morning or late nights, right? So, and then as you start to navigate the situations, you see that you don't have another option than to do stuff. You just have to do stuff. If you sit and think, you're going to start to overthink, and you're going to do a step back, because it is uncomfortable. It is annoying, right? It's painful. But what I learned is that, and I have always been interested in personal development, Pedro, since I am very, very young. I read books and I love it. And I get very interesting. I wonder why they don't have personal development in school, because they would make people think for themselves. And this is a problem. Because you learn so much about everything around you, but especially about yourself.
Of course, yeah.
What I'm bringing this to is that when you learn that actually life is meant to be hard, right? It is, because you have to. That's the only option of growth. You're just gonna grow if you go through failing, if you go through not working, if you go through a mistake, if you go to the right and say, Jesus, I should have gone to the left. And then you go to the left, but the right that you took before is different from the right that you're going to take now, right? So when you start to navigate to these things, you start to see that, one, you're not going to die. Two, you're gonna be fine, and things are. It's almost like if you are walking into a place that is very foggy, and all you see is the next step, and then you do something in the next step, and then slowly as you're walking, the fog starts to fade away, and you start to see things, right? But this is a process that you can just go through it if you make a decision. I am going to do something that is very hard, and I'm going to go through it because I want to see how it's going to pan out. So in all these moves and all these country changes and the cultural thing, I think I started to realize that there is no point for me to fight against things. I have to adapt and move forward. So if I go to Australia thinking like I think and do and behave in Brazil, I will suffer, Just as an example, in Brazil, everybody gets late to meetings, right? So actually, if you arrive on time, you're going to suffer because you're going to be there waiting for hours for people to come to something. For the other hand, in Australia, if you arrive late, nobody will wait for you because people are super punctual, right? So if you go in a meeting in Brazil, arrive late. If you go to a meeting in Australia, arrive on time. So if you learn those two things and you go with the flow, you're not fighting the system, right? Like, oh my God, people in Australia are very punctual and they should be late and vice versa, right? And then you start to live well with this thing. But it takes some time you go and test and see, oh, geez, I arrive late and nobody wait. Even 1 minute. Yeah, not even 1 minute.
Yeah. I mean, it's part, I think, that really kind of resonates with me because having moved from Portugal to the UK, it does, it puts really into perspective the cultural changes that I needed to adapt to, and it's not immediate, and it's through meeting people, going to pubs, trying to immerse myself in the culture that you really learn, and you start to see, okay, wow, this is really different, kind of coming from a more kind of laid back culture to a kind of more Anglo-Saxon, and kind of some kind of distant culture that is in UK. It presents difficulties, so it's adapting and seeing, okay, all right, okay, how can I? It's not like stop being me, but adapt and be flexible, which is easier said than done. You don't become all of a sudden, immerse yourself, or you don't click your fingers and you are flexible and you are you are integrated into the culture. It takes effort, and it takes kind of going through failures, going through tests, trial and testing.
100%.
Yeah,
I have just a quick story for you, Pedro. When I was in Australia, I worked for a few years on a coffee shop, and then I became a manager of the coffee shop. It was a very diverse place with a lot of people from different countries. So one day there was a girl that used to work there, that she was from England. And she came, and I have in the staff were me, Brazilian, there was a German, there was a Dutch, there was a Australian, an English, and a Spanish. So you imagine,
very international.
It's a whole, but Australia is very like this, right?
Right.
Anyway, so she came to me and she said, Renata, we need to talk about our Spanish staff. I said, what happened? And she said, she's from the UK, right? And she said to me, every time he asks me something, he looks at the end of my eyes and he asks with this intensity, Ellen, can you give me the salt? But in a way, Renata, that I feel like almost sexually harassed, right?
Right.
And I said to her, Ellen, this is just Spain meeting England. He doesn't
Let's
want
hope it was let's hope it was only that. Yeah.
Yes, like, he doesn't want anything with you. This is just the way that is the culture in Spain.
Right. Yeah.
So I went to him and I said to him, look, his name was Javi. And I said, look, Javi, Ellen told me this. I just wanted to say two things. The first one, never stop being yourself. Don't stop being yourself. Your passion, right? You're passionate. I know you were not doing anything wrong with her. You just asked the salt, but this is the way that, or the food, this is the way that you speak with all this passion. But just be mindful that you are in a country as well, because Australia is very English too, right?
Of course.
That people don't, not that they don't accept these things very well, but until they know you, there are the barriers, the cultural barriers. So just be aware of that and respect that, right? So avoid touching, especially Portugal, Brazil, Spain. We are very touching people when we talk, we hug, we kiss, right? There, it's not like that. So it's not for you to don't be yourself, but just understand where you are, and then don't be upset by you trying to put actually the right thing into the wrong environment, right? So just be mindful that when you're doing that, also you're at work and stuff, just be a little bit further from her and things like that. So this is the adaptability things that I'm talking about. I'm not asking him for when he's with his friends and he's out of that environment to don't be. Of course, he should and he must. Even in work, he should. But just to don't create some kind of misunderstandings. Let's put it this way.
Exactly. Yeah. It takes. I think it takes a certain level of self-awareness too, and also
100%.
understand where other people are coming from, and having that kind of almost emotional intelligence to differentiate between, you know, the culture that you are living in and your own personality, because it can, I guess in the example you mentioned, it clashes, and if you don't start to deconstruct it, you don't understand why it's happening, and the kind of, you were the middle piece in that in that jigsaw, we're just trying to connect while explain to one another why that was happening, whereas they couldn't, or weren't seeing what was causing that, the
clash.
So there's a brilliant piece of I guess self-awareness as well, and I think that comes as well with experience. I think it's very particular. I mean, speaking from my own experience of having lived in 2 different countries, you start to notice small things, kind of the way people approach you, the way you say hi and what that means, and you start reading between the lines, and once you have a bit of more context, then you don't, oh, it's not about me, it's actually the culture. It's just, that's how things are done here.
Definitely not personal.
Yeah. So I wanted to move us back to cycling. You mentioned triathlon, and kind of so you went to Argentina, triathlon. Do you still do triathlon, or kind of have you pause that part? Because I know you're very active. You know that you like to be hikes, skiing. Like, what kind of, at the moment, what sport kind of grabs as the most of your attention, if you will?
Well, certainly cycling. And the transition was pretty much like that. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I had married, my first husband was an Argentinian. He used to be an Ironman professional athlete. So we were traveling the whole world for him to race. And then we were just full on into this racing and full on into all these things. So I let triathlon for him to do. Although I was training with the group and with him and all that, I was, trying, especially in the pool, was easy to be, together and things like that. But when we moved to Australia, actually the reason why I went to Australia was because he wanted to live in a country where he could train more easily, because in Argentina it was very hard. And in Australia, there is a huge triathlon community as well as cycling community. But initially I went for this purpose, right? For the triathlon thing.
Okay. Right.
We chose Melbourne as the city to live, but Noosa is huge into triathlon in the north of Australia. So then when I moved to Australia, I knew that there is a principle that I always followed since I'm very young. I think I've learned this, is when you are doing a sport, like the people that you meet around that sport, it stays with you forever, right? It's that passion around movement, around the sport itself, is already a very good bond. So and this is something else that I've learned by moving countries. Every time I was moving a country, I was trying to get into a group of some sort of sport, right? So if I was, in case in Argentina, I was with triathlon. So I had a triathlon group there that I was going to swim, run, and ride. When I moved to Australia, although we had a triathlon group because of my ex-husband, but I started to put within that triathlon group, I was going mostly riding with the girls and the boys that were there. And that's how I started to just cycle more. I had always liked the bike. I had always ridden the bike in all different ways, from the sport itself to transporting myself to places. But it was in Australia that I started to get more into group rides, into cycling.
Yeah.
And then at the end, or in the beginning of 2017, my father passed away, and cycling became a kind of a therapy for me. I don't know how to explain. It was the sport that I was doing the most at the time.
Yeah.
And then it just became better and better, because it was a place that, and in parallel to that, my marriage wasn't going well. So it kind of became a place of, for me to be outside, escape, and to just be on my own and just think. I don't know. It was just it became very therapeutic for me at that time.
Yeah, that cycling does.
Yes.
A lot of people attribute cycling as like moving therapy. I think the fact that you are pedaling and like the movement of the right left kind of allows you to, it stimulates the brain in a way that
I also think that
some sports don't.
Yes, I also think that the cycling you have the ability to visit places that you wouldn't otherwise, or even places that you would, but by going by bike, you just go slower. So you're able to appreciate things and also meet people along the way. Right? The amount of friends that I made literally on the road. Actually, my current husband, I met in a petrol station while riding. So it is
like a coffee stop kind of thing, or like
a
emergency snack kind of scenario.
Snack kind of thing. That's where I met him. So and he is a cyclist, and then we started to cycle together. Initially, of course, not as anything, just riding together, and that started to build up as a relationship, which I have till these days. So cycling has the ability of a lot of things. You have the ability to talk with people, because if you go running, it's not the same thing. Swimming, you can't talk. Potentially hiking, you can, but cycling has this ability of you being shoulder to shoulder with someone, right? So you can have conversations. There is power into that as well. A conversation where you look into a person face to face, you confront the person, where when you are side by side, you can talk to them, because you don't have the eye contact, right? So that helps you in having conversations, and the talking is therapeutic, and you start to see things and remember. So cycling is powerful. I think it's one of the best sports for you, not just to be physically fit, but also to meet people, to meet places. It's incredible.
For sure.
Yeah, it's an incredible sport.
I mean, you perfectly put it. It's like cycling, and obviously we are very passionate about cycling, and most of the people that are listening to this conversation will also be very passionate about cycling. And cycling itself mirrors life. As you put it, in the way you describe it, is a great way to connect with people. Is a great way to just find new places, to discover the country, your own country you live in. And there's a lot of metaphors that you can attribute to cycling and life, and I think there's going through the motions. When you go for a bike ride, you go through different terrains, whether you're climbing, you're descending, and cycling can be like a group sport where you go with your friends, you chat, as you were saying, but also can be very it offers you the opportunity to be in solitude, to be with your own thoughts. And it's interesting because it kind of presents yourself with many opportunities to reflect, to connect with people, and what I'm trying to get at is like how has cycling allowed you to kind of unlock kind of a next level. If you in what the purpose that you have in your life, or the ambitions that you have in your life, because it sounds like you have made a lot of changes through getting into group rides in Australia. Has that kind of finding like the core group of people or like-minded people allowed you to like see beyond kind of a wall that you were? You mentioned that your marriage was falling apart. Your dad had passed away, and like there's a lot of turmoil in your life at that time. Was there like a turning point, or kind of something that happened?
No, 100%. I think that at the time, I was working a lot on myself. Every time I go through very hard times, instead of blaming the outside, I try to find why I'm finding that hard. Right. What's happening within that is making me have the perception that things are hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember that at that time, I came across a psychiatrist. His name is Phil Stutz. I don't know if you heard about him before.
No, I'm not aware.
He has a book called Tools, and he also has a documentary on Netflix that I highly recommend people to watch. It's called Stutz. The name of the documentary is his last name. And he has a framework for what he calls personal growth and well-being. So when you are going through a hard time, you have to go what he calls what's the name? Life force. So life force are 3 stages, right? That you have to go through to actually kind of get out of this cloud, right? Of worry of what's going through. Which I'm going to share with you what it is that, translated from him. But of course, if even the listeners want to know more, I think it's amazing. So life force is a framework that has 3 steps, being the first one, the body, the second one, the people, and the third one, the yourself, right? So the body is translated to movement. If you stop moving, we as humans, we are not designed to be sitting on a desk working 8 hours a day. We are designed to be outside building, constructing, working on the land, looking after it. That's what humans were designed to do in its original idea.
That's original. Yeah.
As the modern society, we started to create because we are very clever. And then we started to create things, and then we started to modernize things. So now we no longer need to hunt. We can go to the supermarket, and we don't need to run. We grab a car, right? And things happen. It facilitates our life, but it limits us in our potential. So movement is something that more and more people do less, but actually we should do more, because this is part of our physiology to feel better, right? So the cycling or any kind of movement that you do, at the minute that you feel that you are in your head, stop what you're doing. Even if you go for a walk, it will change the way that you feel, right? Easier said than done, because sometimes you're so stuck in a situation that you say,
of course,
fuck the walk, right? But the truth is, every time, and there's no exception in my life, at least, that I felt extremely bad, stuck in a situation, said whatever, that I had decided I will stop whatever I'm doing right now, just put my cycling gear and getting outside, as cycling being the sport that I love to do, that I didn't come back from this bike ride different. What I mean is, you come back different, because it's you move, right? And you start to stimulate things within yourself, like physiology stuff, like hormones, good stuff into your body.
Exactly.
That just helps you to clear.
All the endorphins coming out, and it's like,
it just clears the mind, right? So the step number 1 is to move. So for me, movement, it's something that had ruled my life since I'm a kid. And I think that, and I assume that all your audience moves because they love cycling and they are into it. So they would get it, right? Being outside, moving is so good for you, right? And it helps even if we are with a group or without a group. So following the life force, the second is called people. So you having people to share, you having a community. This is very important. People that connects with you in a genuine way. So usually, or most of the times, when you have a group of people that ride a bike, one thing for sure they like is to ride the bike, right? So if you are going to out with them and just talk bikes, just talk places you've ridden, that's already feels that you are part of something, right? As to have people around you. So community is the second next step, where cycling fits a great role, because you can have both, right? Because cycling is around, you do this around groups and communities, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the last piece of the life force is yourself, in terms of what the movement and being connected gives to yourself, and you start to understand better of who you are and what makes you, tick and happy and get out of your head. So I think, Pedro, responding to your question is, when I was on that spiral of going through so many hard things, I was thinking, okay, this is a feeling that I have. How can I change that? and trying to understand what could I do. And it's not that I never knew that doing sport and getting outside was a good thing, but until you name it as what you can do to change everything, it's just one more thing. So when you attribute to that thing something that, okay, if I do this, I will feel better, you just run to your bike every single day.
you know what are the mechanisms to
you start to create kind of tools. That's why Phil starts use this as a tool.
You add tools to your toolbox in order to
100%
kind of get out of your head, get to,
go outside, ride,
clear your head, and just focus on other things. I think community is a massive part of having kind of a nourishing life, because it's naturally us humans, we are born to connect with people. We want to speak, we want to share stories, and if you don't have that, then it's a very difficult existence. So that is such an important part, and I guess we are in a privileged position that we are able to use the networks, the people around us, the bike itself, to ride and to explore. So I guess you could call the bike as a tool to kind of to self-exploration, to connection. And I wanted to kind of link this because you have now started a business called Reconnect, and this link in the wanting to reconnect. And I want to understand first why the kind of the name of reconnecting. What was there something that was missing? That what was missing for you to call it Reconnect? And what is the kind of the ambition of the business? Because it's about, I guess, reconnecting. Are people missing something that you are trying to close the gap with? Are you trying to bring more people together? Can you just talk us through a little bit about what inspired you to build it, and what gap did you see in the communities that you have worked in the past that made you think, hold on, I have something that, all these experience that I have been building through Argentina, through Australia, that I can apply here?
Yeah, 100%. So Reconnect came from an idea that I had that genuine connections, they can when you connect with people in a genuine, authentic way, you can transform a lot of things, starting with yourself, and then second, what can you do for others by learning all these things. So for example, now that or at this moment that I have, I love to share the things that I learned and that I've do throughout my life as, okay, all these difficult things happen, all these things happen. I had this transformation, and here where I am right now. If this inspire you, as if you feeling that you were in my position before and seeing my transformation as to do something, I would love that this is a part of an inspiration, right? So I think that when you meet people that think alike, and they sometimes are just missing links that you with each other can exchange, this creates a huge transformation, right? So a couple of things. First, I think that we are getting more and more and more connected into technology, social media, all of these things that actually is not bringing us together, is setting us apart. And I think that
that's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah, although we want to promote what we are doing or to talk about us, you wouldn't know probably what I'm doing if LinkedIn didn't exist. But I think that in terms of connecting with each other, there is a lot of gaps that you don't see, because often in social media as well, you put the result, right? You don't put the process. And I think that there is a lot of power when you put people together and you actually go through the process, being vulnerable with each other. So when connections are no longer transactional, you just go there because you're genuinely interested in the self on you. I've seen transformations. And when I say transformations, is people literally having better lives, like, or impacting other people's life by decisions that they make, right? So when I arrived in Italy, I was thinking, what can I do for people, for a lot of people that I know now in my network that is in business, that feel very lonely, that are expats, that move countries like I did, and they don't find a community, right? This is hard as well. And I experienced this already. It's going to be my fourth time. So Argentina, Australia, Italy. So third time is when you move countries and you have to start from zero to find a community. But you don't want to find any community. You want to find a community that you fit, right?
Exactly.
So it's not anybody. It's a community that you have things that you are alike, right? And going back into the life force concept of the body, the people, and yourself, this is kind of my way of thinking, right? I thought, if I can bring people together through movement, for us to create a community through that experience that we have together and share more of things that we think similarly, and how can we exchange that intel, that information, how can we be better selves and then impact others, right? Because I'm sure that a better Pedro is taking better decisions that will impact other people, that can be as far as your family, your son, your daughter, right? Don't need to be a company that you're working and you impact 100 people. If that happens, even better, right? You have more people to create impact.
I would argue that the impact, your impact, however you want to define impact, but I would define it as making a positive change, making someone feel better about themselves. For instance, it starts one with you, starts you, making you feel better, and then start with the person next to you, whether it's your partner, whether it is your son, in my case, my son, with the immediate people around you. And then kind of and then you can start creating layers to that. And I think it's a great point about the fact that you mentioned about social media. They're brilliant at bringing people together, but does it really bring people together in a meaningful way? And I think that's kind of, I see a lot of these concepts being discussed a lot, is that yes, we are more connected than ever. We can speak with anyone that we wish to in the other side of the world, 14 hours in time difference. But are we really connected to them? Are we, like, do we know them? Because 100%. The social media aspect of it presents with a veneer, if you will, and that you have to kind of crack that, or you have to pull the curtain on that. And I think those connections are difficult because it involves, what you said, being vulnerable, kind of putting yourself out there and meeting people and kind of finding a common ground. I'm not sure I can relate to a person that had a very different life experience than I had. But I can empathize. And if we are meeting together and we're sharing a ride together, that gap kind of very drastically reduces, because we are sharing an experience, and you can just see, well, we are both humans. We have very different upbringings. We're coming from different backgrounds. Maybe we speak different languages, but at the end of the day, we are doing something that we enjoy, and that that connects us. And then if we find kind of that there's a mutual interest or a spark, then we that can grow into something more meaningful. But if not, then the fact that we are just riding a bike or going for a hike together or whatever it is that we're sharing that moment with, that's already it is already building a connection beyond just meeting someone through a photo on Instagram or on LinkedIn.
100%. No, and there is another component. So Reconnect is a community that that I'm creating already, that is already out there for people that work, so business leaders. So the reason why I picked this niche as well, Pedro, is because I found over time with my experience that the people that I know that are in high level roles and that are in high performance businesses and they have to perform, they are also very isolated. They have a lot of issues as well. It's just like athletes, like high performance athletes. Same thing, different field, but same way of thinking, same way of operating, right?
Yeah.
So when you finally have an environment where you look into them of who they are and not what they work for, although what they work for dictates a lot the way that they think and they behave around things, right? So when you have people that perform a high performance in a business and you grab this chunk of people from several different businesses, they tend to have the same mindset, right? They think or they think the same. There is a like-minded way of thinking. So when you put these people together in an environment that they are not in a work environment, but they are outdoors, again, moving, right? Doing something that they can connect with each other, that it's no longer in a tie, in a suit or in a dress, right? You're outdoor, you're naked in terms of you are out of your role play. You are yourself, right?
But are we though? Are we though? Because like when I think about the UK, when I think about the US, when you ask people what they do, they they will list you their work title, their job title, their role, and they will list you maybe like their past experiences. But and that becomes like, okay, right. So that you can immediately set a hierarchy. Okay, so they do this. Okay, so they are a CEO of this company. So they must be something very special. I'm just like, I'm just a marketing manager. I'm like, wow, I'm looking up to them. But I also think that it's a cultural thing, and where, in certain aspects where the kind of the job role, for instance, in US and UK, play a more significant role perhaps than in Portugal or in more Mediterranean countries, for instance, where it's not so much about hierarchy, which still exists, but it's not so much about hierarchy, but it's more about you as the person, you as the individual. And for instance, when I'm talking to people, I try to refrain from asking what they do. It's about trying to first learn a bit more about who they are, not what they do. And I think a lot of people hide or want to find, I think, more kind of find it that is easier for them to say, I do this, and then you immediately build an image and you start kind of putting a construct in your head of what this person looks like there, but rather than first thing asking, who are you, what are you interested in? And I think it's difficult in today, in day and age, where you are, where the value of someone can be easily attributed to what they do or what the salary is or how many followers they have on social media. And I think that's kind of where these kind of businesses and opportunities like Reconnect offer a space for people to kind of play at a kind of equal level.
You normalize and you equalize a lot, right? So you get to understand each other more. And when you are vulnerable, or when you are in an environment that is safe, right? That's the first thing, that you can be 100% yourself. Or closer to that. This is where the exchange happens, and it's just magical to watch. It's just beautiful to watch. Like what can happen on the back of that. I love to hear stories of somebody that said, Renata, somebody that introduced to me did help me with this and that. Or a story that somebody that you introduced to me shared with me, and this changed me with this and this and that. Right. And I think that keep connecting people, you keep creating these opportunities that they wouldn't think, because they are already too busy in their jobs, with their lives, with their families. So then it's somebody that is actually thinking, okay, how can I help those individuals to have experiences and go through events and opportunities that they wouldn't do
exactly. Yeah.
otherwise, right? So giving them the chance to to do something that is absolutely different. And don't get me wrong, it's hard. It's very hard to get people to join in that space because they're so used already with what they have. I already have a network. I already have friends. I already have a group. But this is different, right? This is for you to have the chance to meet people that you wouldn't otherwise, because I have the ability and I have the connections with people that are not just, that are all over, that we can bring it together in one place and then share a lot of stories and experiences and different things that, can help them to grow and be different.
So, I mean, I'm curious, and I kind of going like I'm trying to understand a bit more with it.
Yeah.
You have in your work experience, you have managed events and have managed networking events, and Reconnect is also part of building a community that is around bringing different people together. What is for you in your perspective, in your experience, the kind of the 3 tips for meaningful networking? What actually does look like?
Yes.
Like 3 key things that you have identified through your experience.
Yeah. So I think that when you go to a group that you've never seen people before, it's always hard, right? Because you are there is
intimidated.
and there is a resistance.
Or maybe just
There is a
Go for it,
resistance. There is a resistance on us to get to know new things. It's like you're already comfortable in all the things that you already know. So getting into something new is like, oh my God, I need to talk with that person. Oh, geez, right? But if you go genuinely curious, right, and wanting to ask questions, like not even what do you do, is tell me something that happened last week that made you super happy or super sad. Tell me a funny fact about you. Like if you train me, there is actually a communication game that they give in networking that's called high-low buffalo. So high-low is something high that happened to you. So something good that make you high, happy. Low, it's something bad that's happening to you that is challenging you at the moment. And buffalo is something funny, something that I would not know about you, right? So when you go into a networking event and you don't know even how to talk to people, go, okay, I'm going to play high-low buffalo. But you don't have to tell them, I'm going to play high-low buffalo, right? You just have in your mind, okay, I'm going to ask a question that, Pedro, what made you super excited last week? Like, what's going on? Like, and then you're going to share with me a topic. Then I ask you, but and what had been happening? Have you been struggling with something? It's going on? And then you tell me something. Oh, I'm not very happy. I don't know. My son is not going well at school and I don't know what to do. We're going to connect in there. The vulnerable places, Pedro, is where the magic is.
Yeah.
And the funny one, buffalo. Tell me something funny about you. What is something that I would never know unless I ask, oh, I have an alpaca in my backyard. Really? Why? And then you start. So out of the bat, tell me more. So being curious, right? And out of the bat, ask questions about the person. How many times you've been to a networking event that somebody just asked you a lot of questions and you leave that event and you say, oh my God, that person was awesome. But I can guarantee that the person didn't feel the same way if you haven't asked them questions, right?
Yeah,
because we like to feel important. Like we like to talk about ourselves. It's just a nature.
There's that resonates because it's just I think there is some I'm going to butcher this, but there's some statistics around the fact that we as humans, we like to talk more than we like to listen to, but it needs to be a balance, because that's how you strike a conversation, that you can connect with people. If you're just talking, then someone else has to be listening, so that that's one-sided.
All you need is a question, even is how are you. I was the other day I was talking to my sister actually, and I just asked her one question, was how are you. She was 45 minutes talking. How are you? Unleashed 45 minutes of her talking. And then I needed to go. And then I said to her, I have to go. And then I said to her, it was amazing talking to you. And I hung the phone and I said, actually, we didn't talk. It was a monologue. I just asked you, how are you? Right? But that was after she sent me a message, oh, thank you so much for having calling and blah, blah, blah. So it's just one question, right, that you have to ask. And then that question is going to unleash other things. So I think that when you are networking, when you're in an event or anywhere in a place where you want to meet people, be curious, ask questions that are really genuine, like with no stress, no drama. I will tell you, people will not care about this, right? People are not going to be thinking the whole day, oh my God, Pedro asked me this question and I'm here for 1 year thinking about Pedro. In 5 seconds, they already forgot about you. The worries of their life, the problems that they have, the things they have to do already overcame their minds, and they had already forgotten the question that you've asked, right? So don't stress about, don't worry so much about what people are going to think. Like, just ask the question. The other thing is, go without a transactional mindset. So if you go to a place where, for example, there is a lot of people that are interesting for you to know for your business or for your podcast or for something, go without thinking that you want an outcome in that moment. Try to build a relationship with the person, right? I think in all my experience working with networking communities, but even before that, when I was doing it already, I just didn't name it networking, is I always go with the interest in the person first and just thinking in length, right? If I like the person, I want to talk to her or him again and again and again. And if I don't, I will cut that off and never speak anymore, right? So you know straight away if there is an interest, a connection in between us, and then you just keep that relationship. And then maybe on the 4th or 5th time that you meet the person, you ask, hey, Pedro, you know, I know you have a podcast. I'm starting a business. Do you want me to have as an interviewer, right? But if I ask this question when I just meet you, you're not going to look at me in the same way after we touch point like 5 or 6 or 7 times, right? Because you're going to say, oh, you're just asking me because you're interested in being part of my podcast, right? Which the truth is, I first got interested on you. And then I know what you do, and we got along and we connected, and I know the conversation is going to be good. So I want to be part of that. And then you ask. So it's always the give first, ask second, right? So give a lot of value first, and then you ask what you want, right? And I think that ultimately what rules my world of networking is authenticity. You have to be yourself, right? So every time I do an event or I put people together into something, I never try to be me. I am me, period. You like it, you stay. You don't like it, you go, because I'm not going to change it because of 1 or 2, 3 people, right? So that people that you connect and you're going to be with you for a long time, others that doesn't, and there is nothing wrong about it. That's how it is, right? You can't please everyone, right? You can't have, that's how my mom used to say, if you want to please everybody, open a gelato shop, which you would still not please someone because there will be somebody that is dairy free.
You wouldn't have the flavor.
Dairy free and gluten free, and then you don't have the flavor, and like raspberry and you have blueberry. So
brilliant.
You can't pretend that everybody's going to love you, right? But the ones that do are enough for you to do your business, for you to have your community, for you to have your friends. So that's
brilliant. So I guess you have heard it here first from a top networker. 3 tips: I love Buffalo. Second, give first, ask later, and third, be authentic.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
So I wanted to ask, there is, doing research about this conversation with you. There are a lot of memorable quotes from how you come across, what you publish online. But I'm interested to find out, is there a quote or a mantra that you return again and again, when life gets overwhelming, when you want to when motivation is lacking, but you still want to carry on? What mantra or kind of saying that you return to?
Disengage your self-worth from your achievements.
Wow.
So every time.
Okay, talk us more through that. Yeah.
Yes. Disengage your self-worth from your achievements. Because before you achieve something, you're going to fail a lot. It's going to get wrong. You're going to get a lot of rejection. There will be a lot of people that are going to tell you no, more people that are telling no than people that are going to say to you yes. And this is nothing to do with how good you are. You are good enough. We are all good enough. And we play that role that whatever is not working for us is because we are not good enough in doing something.
Yeah.
When you disengage these two things and you take the emotions out of something that you want an outcome, and you just action. No today, okay, I'm going to try again tomorrow. No again, I'm going to try again tomorrow. I'm going to pivot, I'm going to change, I'm going to try again tomorrow, and I'm going to done. And you keep doing this, you will receive the yes that you're looking for. And you have the people coming towards you, or you achieving the things that you want, right? But you have to disattach your self-worth, that you are good enough to do something, that you are good enough or not, in order to get to that achievement, right? And it's very hard. And I will tell it to you that I struggle a lot with that, especially when I'm doing something that is so heartfelt and that I put so much of my emotion into it, and that I am thinking about it day and night, and I'm putting all literally my feelings, my emotions, my love into something that I'm doing. And then something tells me, no, Renata, I don't want that, right? And I immediately it feels for me immediately as an attack, right? You are attacking me, and it's nothing to do with me. We need to remember that everybody has a life and experience. Behind you there is a life that I don't know, right? Behind all the people that you know, there is a story that you don't know. I don't know what somebody that I have just a half an hour chat to try to, for example, become a member of Reconnect is going through, because I don't have the time to reveal all the layers to understand.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then the person tell me no, because actually they just heard that they're going to become redundant in a week. They didn't tell me on a phone call, and they just received the news from their boss that they're going to become redundant. I jump into a call, ask them to be part of a networking community, and they don't tell me anything because I don't know. And in their heads is like, bloody hell, I'm going to be redundant in a week. What are the commitment I'm going to take right now? And then there is this girl here trying to bring me to no. But I don't know all this story. What I know is the no, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And then you take it totally, oh my God, the call wasn't good. But you don't know the story of the person, right?
Yeah.
And then it affects you as, oh my God, I'm not good enough to do that. So if you try to exercise that, which again, it's very hard. It's not easy. Easier said than done. But you start to use that. I use that quote, Pedro, to persevere, right? It's to don't stop, because what you are doing is good, is transformative, it's impactful, it's gonna be good. Like you're gonna have the outcome that you're looking for. You just need time, persistence, and grit, right? And if this is something that really touches your heart and you really are passionate about doing, you will repeat these over and over and over and over until it succeeds. I think I still never heard a story of a successful entrepreneur or business person or athlete that hadn't repeated hundreds or thousands of times a movement or before actually succeeding into something, right? So it's the reps, it's the repetition, right?
Yeah, there's two things there that I wanted to kind of highlight that I think is very important. One is the detaching yourself, self-worth from the work you're doing. I think that's very powerful, because it's just once you are like very committed to whatever you're doing, whether it is your job, whether it is your passion project, it's very easy to let emotions take hold of that. And you don't know where, if someone rejects what you're doing or says no, you don't know. It's very easy to associate that no with your personal worth, and you need to detach from that. So that's very powerful. I think it's a key differentiator between people that are able to take more risks, being able to grow faster, from the other people that emotionally attach themselves to that no. Because that is a massive, I would say, is a massive way to grow faster, because you just learn. Okay, so that's a no, because I don't know exactly the reasons, but I can learn from what happened here and try to move on.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get stuck in like attaching yourself to that no and your self-worth to it, it's like a rock, having a rock chained to your ankle and dragging you to the bottom of the river.
Yes.
That's a very kind of like dark image, but in a way that's what might feel like. And the other aspect is like that, the repetition, perseverance, grit. That's any story of an entrepreneur, any story of a business, any story of anyone and starting anything. That is there. That are key elements in repetition. Is the 10,000 hours. You have to put the hours. You have to put the work. You have the dedication, and motivation will falter sometimes. But if you have the dedication, the work ethic,
yeah,
that will shine through. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will eventually.
It will 100%.
So yeah, brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's very powerful, and I just wanted to really kind of highlight that. And having said that, I think that brings us very nicely to a question that I ask of all my guests, and I think it's very apt for as a follow-up question. What does success look like to you?
I think success is whatever you want to do, right? So there is no right or wrong for success in my mind, right? I think we grew up with we grew up. Well, I'm gonna say for me, I grew up with how can I say the word, with the not assumption, but with the perception that success in the society that I grew up was finishing school, getting married, having kids, get a dog, get a house, get a good job. Then you stay with your husband for the rest of your life. You die old together. And this is what success in a life of a normal human being should look like. This is not how I think success looks like. I think that, and this challenged me for many, many, many years because I thought differently. And I thought maybe I am weird because I don't want these things. I don't know if I want kids. Yeah. I don't know if I want to buy a house. I don't know if I want a dog, although I'm going to buy a dog soon because I love animals. But it's like there is certain things that are standard in our society that I don't agree with, right? So for me, success is whatever you want to do. The thing is that what do you want? Right? What do you
need
want?
To ask yourself that.
Exactly. What do you want that you want is not what people want for you to
or expect of you. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So people expect you to have. So what you generally want. And this is a question that is also very difficult to answer because sometimes you want things that people tell you that you should have or do or be. And then you do it almost to please them or to look good on their eyes. But deep inside, you're really not there, right? So I think that once I attached this belief that I have to have certain things as to be a successful woman in the eyes of society, it's almost like you free yourself to so many possibilities out there. So at the day that I decided that I don't want to have kids, for example, was a big decision to actually say this out loud now. It feels almost weird because it's like, oh my God, what a weird are you? Why would you think this way? Right? How selfish you are. I think it's the opposite. I think it's the opposite. I don't want to raise a kid just because, so there is so many challenges. And I think that as our roles as women and men in society, right, as well, there is a lot of pressure for women to be that image of kids and household and husband, and the man has to work. You have to have a successful job. You have to earn a lot of money. You have to be a C-suite something. You have to be an entrepreneur that sold your business and earn millions. These are the stereotypes that we have, at least the ones that I had in my upbringing. that actually, when you go to someone that has this stereotype and you go through their lives and you actually talk to them, you see, you know what, this doesn't make them any happier.
Yeah.
So this makes me wonder if this is the outcome that I want for my life, right? So I have this thing. Sorry, women listening to this, but most of my friends that have kids, they complain. Most of friends that have dogs, they love it. There must be a reason. So what I'm saying is not that because they complain I'm not having it. It's a personal decision, of course. But sometimes we just things because we are part of the herd, right? So you just follow the things. I think that early in my life, when I did this move to Argentina, I followed some stuff, some things that my upbringings were asking me to do. Like, you have to get married, you have to have a wedding, and you have to do this, and you have to do that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do anything that you don't want to, right? It's just very difficult to say, no, I don't want to do that. Do you want to do a wedding and spend a fortune in a wedding? No, I don't want to do that. I want the money to travel or to buy another bike. I don't know, right? But it's difficult to go through because once, Pedro, you are different and you think differently, you're going to find a lot of resistance.
Oh yeah, of course.
You find a lot of resistance because people reflect on you their fears of thinking different. So it's not about you. And going back to detaching your self-worth, it's not about you. It's a reflection of what they are going through that goes towards you, right?
Exactly.
Separating these two things are difficult, but once you are aware that this is what happens, you start to see that, okay, what do you want? Oh, actually, my perfect life, like when I think it's going to be in the mountains, in a house that is nice, that I can have time to bike ride at 12 in the afternoon, go and do it. We just have one shot, one life, right?
Yeah.
It's going to end. So you better run and do your stuff. And that's why I am so advocate of taking action, because sometimes I even feel that I am in a rush, right, to get things done and to get there, because I know it's going to finish, and make the most of it. And I promise you, people are caring way less about you than you think they are. They are not. They're going to listen to this conversation. They will love it. In a week, they're going to forget. And then there will be the next one and the next one and the next one. And this is how it is. This is how life is. So find what you love, what you're really passionate about doing, things that in and out you can keep doing, and make this your success. That's what success would look like.
Very
to
good.
Me. Yeah.
Very good. Brilliant. I think there is loads to unpack there in terms of because success can be such a loaded question, because it can
mean
the fact that success, what it means for society, what it means in terms of stereotypes, and you really have to kind of pull away like an onion, like you mentioned before, peel the layers and find out, go to the core, and it's like, this is what it is mean. It's not like it's not a reflection of what or projection what people are expecting of me to do, but this is me. This is what makes me happy, what brings me peace, and that is really kind of soul searching, because if you are just going through the motions, going through what people are saying or giving you feedback, and kind of, oh yeah, I think I am like that, and rather than asking yourself doing a bit of introspection about what you really believe in, what truly makes you happy, then it's very easy to go through life without having to ask these questions. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. It's just, you are very focused in making sure that you are in tune with your body, with how what makes you happy, what kind of makes you thrive. And that means kind of making choices. And that's what life is about, is making choices, and making choices that allow you to live that life in a purposeful way that brings you joy, makes you thrive, and that takes many shapes. So in a long way, is like what I'm trying to say is that there is no right or no wrong answer, but it's beautiful to listen every time to people come on the podcast and tell me what success looks like to them, and have every single time ever different answer, because that's the beauty of it, is like success is very, very personal.
Different. Yes.
So I wanted to, having said that, I was kind of, unfortunately, we come to a point of the podcast, kind of where we actually have to bring to a close. I started the tradition on the podcast where every guest leaves a question to my next guest, not knowing who they are. And the question that was left for you, I think it's a very good one. I think all the questions are very good, because it's brilliant at getting conversation starters and even taking the whole conversation into a different trajectory. So the question is this: what is your favorite or best ride memory?
It's my favorite or best?
Or best ride memory. Like, let's just say, what is your favorite ride memory? Like something that's stuck in your head as very memorable.
Yes, I think one of my memorable rides was when I first came to Italy and I did the Quattro Passi, because I have never seen the Dolomites before.
Is it Quattro Passi? Is it a race? Is it a group ride?
No, so
I don't know what it is.
So Quattro Passi, it's the 4 passes, so the 4 mountain tops that they are in the Dolomites. That actually the Giro often goes around that. So you see the name of the riders painted on the roads and the whole thing. So it's 4 mountains that they made like a Giro. You can do like a loop around them 4.
Brilliant.
Beautiful. And I think that this was in 2019. And what happened was, I have this memory actually very, how can I say, recent in my mind. You're just climbing, you're going slow climbing, right? And you look around. I mean, it's not as fast as going down. That's what I meant. And then when you were going up, and when you start to look around and you see the size of that rock, makes you wonder, right? How did it got here in first place? And it just makes you feel like, I wouldn't say small, but humble, right? It gives you a little bit of perspective. And I think that perspective is something that misses in our life sometimes. We get too much into our own problems and we miss the bigger scheme, right? Of things. So sometimes when you feel a sense of overwhelm, if you just go outside, there is a quote from Stephen Hawking. He says, every time I feel overwhelmed, I go outside and I look up to the sky. And then you see how small you are when you compare to the whole. And you see, you know what, my problem is nothing. I was just in my mind. And riding in a place like this give you this type of perspective, right? You start to see around and see those mountains, and it's just overwhelming. Which, by the way, I recommend anyone that wants to come to Italy to do that loop, because it's not too hard, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. There is actually, Pedro, a day in September that's called the Dolomiti Bike Day. So they close that course for people to do to ride without cars. And it's not a race. It's not nothing. It's just like what they call a bike day. So they do this on the Dolomiti for Quattro Passi, and they're gonna be doing this on the stage from the Giro that is in Mount Grappa. They're gonna be doing the day before bike day on Mount Grappa as well. So they're closing the whole mountain just for cyclists to go up and down. So it is
brilliant.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I think that was my most memorable ride.
Very good. Yeah, I think it's like that's one of the one of the beautiful things about cycling is that one, allows you to put things in perspective, but also allows you to kind of pull away from the problems, from being stuck in your head and being in the present. And and when you start noticing that nature all around you, and it like makes you feel like, yes, I'm a little speck of dust in the universe, and like there's this beautiful space around me that it just makes you kind of appreciate more.
100%. To go further, beautiful. Pedro, just to wrap it up, you are part of that, right? So if you think that you're part of it, it makes it even more special, right? So you see that everything's going to be all right. You're going to be just fine. Just keep going, right? Don't stop.
Indeed.
Just keep going.
Brilliant. So I think there's a lot of action points here people listening can take. So that is brilliant. And I wanted now to kind of pass the baton to you. What question would you like to leave to my next guest?
Knowing what happened in your life right now, which advice would you give to yourself when you were 15 years old?
Brilliant. That is a very good question. Brilliant question. It's a great conversation starter. It kind of really gets you into as a conversation starter. I would say that puts you into in gear. You're like, okay, right, let's strap in and let's go through the understanding.
What gives you perspective in this, Pedro, is that whatever you thought it was right when you were 15 and where you got right, you can achieve anything. It just gives you anyway, ask this question. Let's see what the person comes to.
Exactly. Brilliant, Renata. I wanted to have this conversation, and I'm really inspired and energized by this conversation. I think a lot of people will feel the same way. And I think if anything that I've taken from this conversation, one key aspect is that from your experience, is that it's, not everyone or nobody has everything figured out. It's, but if you choose and if you make the right choices and you commit to them, that in itself brings you fulfillment, and gets you into the right path. And then that's, and if you have a bike that you can use as a tool, if you have a community that you can use to connect with people, that enables you to kind of further thrive in wherever path you choose to set your mind on. So I think it's a very powerful message that you left us with. And so so I would just wanted to thank you for that.
No, thank you so much. You will never know which choice is the right one. You have to test, so you have to be curious. So that's Indeed. Awesome. Thank you.
Brilliant. I hope you found this conversation with Renata Farah as energizing and insightful as I did. From choosing the harder path to reconnecting with ourselves and others, her journey is a reminder that the ride, literal and metaphorical, is where real growth happens. If today's episode resonated with you, please consider sharing to a friend, rating the podcast, or leaving a review, because it helps more people discover the podcast, discover the power of cycling, and the voices that move it forward. You can follow Renata Farah and learn more about their work on LinkedIn. And as always, you can find me, Pedro Couto Lopes, on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep riding, keep growing, and keep choosing the path to success.